irritability is not you being tired or you being stressed out. It's different than that. It is the sudden onset of rage with minimal or no really trigger whatsoever. It's not motivated by a manipulative goal. So it's not, a lot of times people use anger to get people to modify their behavior. It has no purpose. People don't become irritable for that purpose. And often they recognize that they've had an inappropriate behavioral response to trivial stimuli and often feel really bad about it afterwards. And I think is to some degree a source of losing self-esteem if you're a person with Huntington's disease. It's completely out of that individual's control. It's related not only to some internal content that might be upsetting to that person in the face of marked disinhibition. So an inability to damp down an emotional response to something, plus the inability to stop it from coming out. So the best example that I can come up with is if you were in the grocery store and you were in a hurry and you had 3 items and you go to the quick checkout line and there's somebody in front of you and the clerk is obviously struggling with some problem with checking that individual out, and it's like, slow as molasses, and you're getting more and more irritated that you're having to wait because you have some important thing to get to. And you would really like to, say something to that clerk about, how idiotic her behavior is. Would you please get going? But you don't. You don't because, 1, it's not an appropriate thing to do in that setting, and 2, because if you did that, she'd probably get flustered and go twice as slow. Well, the person with Huntington's has no control over blurting that out and making that situation worse for themselves. So, I think everybody can relate to that, but what most people don't relate to is the complete inability to control that outburst from inside you. So the other thing, though, that I think is unique about irritability is the degree of anger that people have. And it's truly rage. And if you're around someone who's irritable, or if you're around somebody who's out of control, most human beings have a hardwired fear response. And your response is to back off from that person and to protect yourself, so gain some extra space around that person. But a lot of people also have a response of saying, I think you're wrong about that, let me just tell you why, which makes irritability much worse. So you can see how irritability might escalate for an individual to what might have been an inappropriate response and making things worse to having real interpersonal consequences within a family or at your job where you don't handle feedback well from an employer or you get into scuffles with other coworkers. And again, this is totally out of this individual's control. So in Huntington's, anywhere from 30 to 65% of people become irritable. It can occur at any time in the disease. It's often some of the earliest symptoms of Huntington's and has really marked interpersonal and occupational consequences. It often occurs years before motor onset. So it's not like you go to the doctor, you get a diagnosis, and then you become irritable. It's been going on for quite a while. And in people that don't understand that there's a prodromal phase with Huntington's before motor onset, they work very hard to explain it and have a lot of difficulty doing it and just tolerate it for a long time and get really out of hand. Everything from people having an internal sense of uncontrollable anger to having sort of trivial outbursts to rage associated with aggression. So it can cause quite a bit of turmoil in families. The good news about irritability is that it's probably one of the most treatable symptoms of Huntington's disease with, easily available medications that a lot of physicians have a lot of experience using. So and I think most people don't understand that you can probably get rid of it to a greater or lesser extent. What you can't necessarily do is you can't eliminate irritability as the disease progresses. In other words, it's sort of a sign that disease progresses, at which point you make a change in somebody's treatment regimen and you get it back under control. So it's sort of it's a harbinger of a new plateau or a change to a new plateau with Huntington's as the disease progresses.